Hello there everybody, welcome back, and here's another video for you. The last video I did was on how to improve listening, how to improve your listening comprehension skills. Now I'm going to do the other side of the coin of that same question, and this video is on how you improve your speaking. What is speaking and how I can improve it, or rather what speaking is, what is fluency. Fluency. Wow, it's actually a more difficult question to answer than what it seems. So for you, what is it to be fluent in English or in any other language, right? Am I fluent? Am I speaking fluently? Am I speaking English fluently right now? Or if I spoke Spanish and I said, ok, hoy fue un buen día para mí, hoy fui a almorzar a la casa de mi suegra y la pasamos bien. Y am I being fluent in Spanish? Do I sound fluent? Yes, I do. Yes, I am. And I'm fluent in English as well. But why is it that I can be fluent? My own theory of fluency is that it all comes down to integrating the different pillars of the language. And what are these pillars? These pillars are pronunciation, grammar, and vocabulary. When I'm speaking Spanish and when you are speaking your native language, Spanish, Portuguese, whatever that is, you're using words, but you're ordering and formulating those words into structured, well-structured sentences. And so you're using grammar. And then you are articulating those words into sounds, right? And so you actually create sounds with your mouth. So that is pronunciation, that is articulation, that is formulation, and there's this other aspect which is conceptualization, which is a little bit before the linguistic act of formulating words into sentences in your head, which is the formulation part. Conceptualization, I think it's kind of like images, concepts, ideas. So you have conceptualization, formulation, and articulation. Now, that requires your mind to be at 100% at the full steam, full throttle. Imagine like you're using your computer and you're running all these super system demanding pieces of software. So you're using Adobe Premiere, Photoshop, and you're watching a video over here, and you're playing a video game on your different, on your other screen, right? Your CPU, your computer is going to be, the cooler is going to be, it's going to be super noisy. It's the same thing with your brain when you are speaking. The thing is, that is your brain when you're speaking English and you're really struggling. The objective would be for you to relax a little bit. And what's the difference when you speak your native language? Is that you can do it relaxed, right? And with minimal effort, because it goes back to this idea of integration. You don't have any issues integrating your vocabulary, the grammar, and your pronunciation of your native language. However, when it comes to English, it's like you're hyper aware of, okay, which word should I use here? What's the grammar pattern that I should use to communicate this idea? The past. Okay, so the past, I need to, how do I pronounce that? ED, walked, walk it, or not walked. So for me, fluency is when you're able to communicate your ideas, integrating your knowledge of grammar, vocabulary, pronunciation, in a way that allows you to actually communicate your ideas relatively easy and effectively, right? And so what are some things, some tips, some practices that you could employ to improve your fluency? So first of all, I would say grade your speech. In a scale from 0 to maybe from 1 to 10, how fluent do you think you are? Are you a 3 or 5 or 7? If it's a 5, why is it a 5? Like, think about the tendencies that you have that you think reduce the level of fluency that you have. And think about what would have to be different in your speech so that it is more fluent, or it is perceived as more fluent. Is it that you are forgetting words? Is it that you are using incorrect grammar? Or that you are insecure about your pronunciation? Or that you have to be constantly translating? What do you think is keeping you from being more fluent? Just think about that, reflect upon that, and by doing that, what you're going to be doing is you're going to be raising that more to your awareness. If you're aware of the things that you think give you a hard time, then when you observe that in another speaker, you're going to be, trying to, steal some of the best practices that these other speakers are doing. Again, just to condense everything that I've talked about in the first step would be to analyze your speech, grade yourself, Think about what you could be doing differently that would allow you to speak more fluently, and then observe that in other speakers. And that is actually, observation deserves its own place, because you have to be observant, and then you're allowing yourself to be influenced by what other people are doing. You're basically just feeding off of what other people do that is great, and so you're going to try to copy that, which is totally fine. Now, another big characteristic of fluency is automaticity, right? Automaticity. What is automaticity? When you basically can speak in a automatic mode, when you are not really making an effort, again, in order to retrieve the information from your grammar knowledge, your vocabulary knowledge, and your pronunciation knowledge. Again, it's this seamless, smooth integration of your knowledge. There are different ways that you can gain more automaticity. Well, the first and the most important one is practice. It all comes down to practice. You're going to absorb new information as far as the pillars of the language, and then if you don't put that into practice relatively soon after you learn something new, if there is no practice, then all the effort that you might make on something is not really going to amount to much. Say that you have recognized that you have some problems expressing ideas with the conditional tenses. It's not really tenses, the conditional clauses, like the if, the first, second, third conditional. So you start studying that, you start paying more attention to that, you start observing that in other speakers, and you start absorbing that information. But then if you're not really putting that into practice, then your brain is designed for survival. And if your brain recognizes that it's retaining a piece of information that you're not going to be using, your brain is saying, I'm not going to spend any calories in retaining this piece of information. I might as well just forget it, so that I can focus on other things that are going to guarantee my survival. In order to learn something, you have to absorb first the information, but then put it into practice so that you solidify it in that way, okay? Learning and absorbing new information is vital. Practice is king. If you have a problem that you don't have opportunities to put your English into practice, you don't have enough conversation practice opportunities, then you should make that your number one priority when it comes to any effort that you make to learn English or to work towards fluency in the language. Make having the opportunity to speak English your number one priority. Figure it out. Go online. Pretty much all the answers to all the world's problems are online, and you can find the answer there. And in fact, I'm going to give it to you right now. Why don't you go to Facebook and look up the Level Up Your English Fluency group? That's the Facebook group where you're going to find me and a few select individuals who are set on improving their English fluency, and we are all super motivated there. And if that's something that you think you are going to fit in that group, go ahead and join it. There is a lot of good stuff happening there, and you don't want to miss it, right? So the next tip is polish your speech. Once you have practice figured out, now you need to pay attention to the way that you're speaking and your speech. Think about the ways that you can make it even better. Again, resort to observation, observing other students, other learners, or native English speakers. Do what it takes to really turn that observation and those insights that you're going to be learning and turn those into action, and so that you make your speech even better. Because one of the things that I've noticed in a lot of students is that they do have access to tons of practice opportunities, but they're just content with that, and they could be improving the way that they speak, but they're kind of stuck there, and they would never address those mistakes and fix those mistakes. All you need to do is just step out a little bit of the moment, not while you're practicing necessarily, but then when you're alone, just think back about, the conversation that you had and everything, and think about, how you could be making your speech better. Polish it. Don't just speak with many mistakes all the time and never do anything to, make those mistakes go away and make your speech even better. Another tip is when it comes to learning vocabulary, even though you should learn words individually, also focus on chunks. Chunks are groups of words that usually go together, and that when you learn them, you're not just learning one word, you're learning the word and all the words that accompany them. Some examples of chunks here that I can see on the screen right here is we'll get in touch soon, to get in touch with someone, right? To get in touch. You're not just learning and trying to make sense of the word get individually, then okay, in, and then touch. You don't think about the vocabulary in this sentence in those terms, like individually. You have to just accept them as what they are, which is just a chunk, a phrase, a fixed phrase, and learn it as a whole, as a group of words, okay? Next tip is listen to as much English as possible, and that is actually the video that I last filmed and uploaded to the channel. Be sure to go and check that out if you haven't already, because if you don't have that exposure to the language, you're going to be missing out on a huge opportunity to be doing the things that I've been mentioning so far, which is absorbing the new information. You have the chance to do that in a passive way, because if you just listen to English as much as possible, you're going to be watching your favorite show on Netflix. You're just going to be exposing yourself to the language in a passive way. You're not going to be actively trying to learn what the words that you encounter in that TV show. You're just going to be absorbing them through input, right? And so listen to as much English as possible, so that one, you can absorb new information in a passive way even, and two, so that you can observe. Again, goes back to being observant, which is a key skill for learning English. If you want to actually do that in a little bit more of an active way, you can do shadowing, which is actually my next tip. As you're watching your favorite Netflix show, take a dialogue and try to say it exactly as the speaker said it. You mimic what the person is saying in real time, or maybe immediately after they're done saying that. You could pause the television, or you could just let it continue. So if the speaker is saying, let's get out of here, right? Let's get out of here. So you're going to take that and you're going to try to mimic it. And when you mimic it, in order for it to be the most effective it could be, just try to say it exactly the same way that person is saying. So he said, let's get out of here. Let's get out of here. Let's get out of here. So start practicing with repeating what the person said, and copy the pronunciation, the rhythm, the intonation, even the mannerism, the facial expressions, the body language, things like that. I think that those things help as well, because you kind of like get yourself into character a little bit, right? My next tip is write. Ultimately, you're either the receptor of English, meaning you receive it through listening or through reading, or you produce it. And when you produce language, or when you produce English, you either speak it or you write it. But at the end of the day, writing and speaking are exactly the same thing in a basic sense, because you're producing English. The difference is that with writing, you have the luxury of time. You can take your time to think about, how you're going to formulate a certain idea. You have more time to do a more proper word selection. With speaking is real time, baby. It's real time, and you have to think of the words right there in the moment, on the spot. You're going to be much more prone to making mistakes, and you're also going to have to be more spontaneous, and you're also susceptible to anxiety, like social anxiety or second language anxiety, which is a special type of anxiety that affects second language speakers, or someone that's speaking a second language that is not his or her first or mother tongue. So speaking is trickier than writing. However, if you write, you're going to be going back to just the core activity of producing language. And if you are good at writing but not good at speaking, the only thing that I think is keeping you from being as good a speaker as you are a writer is being able to think more quickly, right? Being able to retrieve the information. But the good news is that you can get there with practice. And lastly, and this is going to be a reiteration of something that I've already said, is go to Facebook and join the Level Up Your English Fluency community, where up-and-coming professionals come together to develop the tools and mindset to become fluent and confident English speakers. We inspire and empower individuals to step up, level up, and take control over their careers and lives. Experience the world fully and leave your mark in it. Does that sound like something that you would want to do? Then If it's a yes, go ahead and look us up on Facebook, Level Up Your English Fluency, or English Fluency Level Up as well. And I'll be glad to connect with you there on Facebook. And with that said, I don't think I have anything else to say other than thank you for watching this video, and I'll see you next time.